Pregame.com.
Saturday, college basketball action. We're going to the Big East. It's Marquette at Villanova. I'm Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined by Vegas runner VR. Before we start this, let's set the stage. We're doing videos. We're in the office. We're taping on Thursday. This game's being played on Saturday. So obviously, we don't have the official lines out yet. We can only do projections on lines. You and me are a little bit different. I do projections of what I feel Vegas is going to bring the number out at. You do projections of what you think the true number
line should be. Yeah, and you're great at that. You know, and when what Vegas doesn't agree with what you thought they should do, it opens the door for you to find value, and you take a step further and say, why didn't they do what I thought they were going to do? And that works great for you. I'm not good at projecting what Vegas is going to do, because my whole life I've approached it with trying to figure out how to make a line that's better than theirs, you know? And you're not going to do it all the time, but at the end of the day, I know that they're creating a line to try to balance action. I don't have that problem. No one's betting it with me. I could create what I think the true power should be. And by getting a difference, if I think a line should be -5 and they come out -8, I like the dog. If I think it's -5, they come out with -2, I like the favorite. You know, so I let you do the projecting what Vegas is going to do, and what I'm going to try to do is share with you what I think the true power rating should be between the two teams.
So going into this game on Saturday, Marquette's, coming in here. They've won 5 in a row. I've got Marquette road favorite in Villanova. And it's not often that, in recent years that you hear road favorites at Villanova.
Yeah.
But I've got Marquette as a 1.5-point road favorite here.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out even a little higher, I got to tell you what, Marquette's been the surprise team in the Big East. I mean, here's a team that since Dwayne Wade left hasn't done much. They've been hanging around, but they're not a team that going into the season you project to win the Big East.
There's so many big names in front of them.
Yeah, you got the Syracuses, the Louisvilles. I mean,
you used to have Pitt until this year.
Exactly. Georgetown. There's so many great Big East teams. Even though I think the conference is down this year, Marquette is that surprise team that's sitting at 17-4. On the flip side, you got Villanova. They're not even at 500. But here's the problem with Villanova. They can't win on the road because they're a very young team. This team, you're talking, has very little experience. And what I've learned from you is look at a young team later in the season, because they're no longer, they may be freshmen officially, but they put in a whole season. They're now sophomores, more or less.
Remember a couple of years ago, Memphis, when they...
Exactly. They're no longer freshmen. Yeah. And I've learned that from you. And I look for young teams that may have had some trouble early, but I expect them to start playing better as the season progresses. And I think Villanova falls into that category because they're young, but they've had the 6th toughest schedule in all of college basketball. That's tough when you're young and you have a tough schedule. I think this is the kind of game at home where they can win. Their problem is shooting the ball. They're terrible. They can't shoot. And you get a young team who has problems shooting, and you put them now on the road, there's a reason they're 2-9 on the road and on neutral courts. But at home, they're 8-2, where they're more comfortable shooting the basketball. And I think comfortable at home, if you give me them at the dog price, I got to lean the Nova.
Well, a couple things, I can't say that I disagree with you. I'm a neutral on this one, and I wanted to go to the Villanova side. Now I'll explain the one reason why I didn't. Marquette, 5 wins in a row. But if you look a little bit deeper at those 5 wins that they've had, it's been against the bottom half of the Big East.
Right.
With the exception of Louisville, was the only team in there that, is a named team. But even Louisville has played, they've been like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
One day they look like they're the best team in college basketball, and the next they're middle of the pack.
So I'm not so much sold on, how good Marquette's record is. I think they've been, a victim of, a soft schedule. The other thing is that flips me not wanting to pull Villanova. One thing I've always done in basketball is when you get the second meetings. I like to look at second meetings, and these two teams have already played. When a team is a big favorite at home, 8,
Double
9
digits,
or more
yeah.
double digits, which Marquette was 10 the first meeting. They only won by 4.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to look to the team that won close in the first game because
They're
the average
focused. They're going to show
yeah,
up.
if they, for any reason, because they were a big favorite, took them for granted in that first meeting, for any reason, they're not in the second because
Right.
they almost lost at home.
And they're not 10-point favorites by accident. It shows they're a good team.
Right. Then you're going to have the average, we don't want to call people squares, but just the average bettor that doesn't dig real deep, they're going to look and say, oh, they already played.
Yeah.
Villanova
Gave 'em
almost
up.
beat
Yeah,
them. They're getting
yeah.
10. Now they're at home, blah, blah, blah. Switch the site. So it makes it easy to look. But this is still the reason why I'm not pulling the trigger on Marquette is I want to see what this line comes out. If it is small like this, where it's just pick the winner, then it still looks a little bit too easy
To take Marquette.
To take Marquette the way they're playing right now as opposed to the way Villanova's playing. But then if it comes out, at 3 or 3.5, like you figure the true line should be, then to me, it doesn't look too easy to take Marquette. And I know it sounds silly, but in my warped mind,
I know exactly what you're saying.
That's where I like Marquette then. But this is a situation that I'm going to be on the fence. I'm going to see what Vegas is going to do
with the number
to try to split the action. I want to see which way they hedge their bets. If they keep this thing small, that they're not scared to take Marquette money, then I'll probably look to your side, Villanova.
The one thing I want to add with Marquette is this. When they're playing a tall team, that's when you want to fade them. This is a very small basketball team. They play up tempo, but they don't have any length. That's the reason they're one of the worst offensive and defensive rebounding teams in all of college basketball. They're 117th offensive and 228 on defense rebounded. They do not rebound the ball well. Villanova, they may not be the tallest team, but they do have height. They're monsters compared to what Marquette's going to put on the court. Both like to play up tempo. I think if Nova has some discipline this late in the season and is not going to fall into that Marquette game where let's run up and down the court and trade baskets, but instead let's go half court style and feed the ball inside where they could get easy looks since they shoot so horribly, I think they have a shot. But if they run the ball and you see Vegas puts out a high total above 150, 155, if they're expecting up and down, then I'd be weary of Villanova. If they come out with a lower score, a lower total below 150, then they're expecting Nova's going to slow this game down.
All right, so your projection
I'm projecting Villanova, man. I like Villanova. Maybe it's a little Philly bias on my part. It's funny how we're both doing your best bet's a Big East school. You know where we come from.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Villanova, man. I think this is a winnable game for them. They could win this game on the money line. Hopefully Vegas is a little more generous and gives us a couple more points.
Well, throwing the Philadelphia flavor out there, it doesn't have anything to do with this game, but I'll throw 30 seconds at you about Philadelphia basketball because a lot of people don't know about the Big Five.
The Big Five, man. The Palestra.
You got Penn, you got St. Joe's, you
LaSalle.
got LaSalle, you got Villanova. All these teams, when they play one another, it's cutthroat. Guys that are in California may not know the rivalry thing. So
between inner city.
The inner city rivalry in Philadelphia is huge. And where it benefits you, this is a little, what we used to do our little nuggets.
Yeah.
Is if you see these teams play one another or are going to be playing one another in the next game, these are look-ahead spots for these teams because they take these Philadelphia games, the inner-city rivals, very big, and then you could suffer letdowns the game after.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It's something to add to your...
I agree. Even if it's not a conference game,
right.
If it's a Big Five game, it matters.
It matters to them. So add that to your arsenal. We're just here with wealth of information we try to deliver. He's Vegas Runner. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Carry the conversation on in pregamevideos.com. We'll drop in, we'll put our show notes, we'll answer questions you guys have. Once these lines actually come out, you can ask us what we think when we see the actual numbers on the weekend, and we'll comment. We'll be back. We're going to do another Big East.
Your best bet.
VR already teased it. We're going to go Big East style. We're back with Louisville and Seton Hall.